You guys see this character here in this white bathrobe? Manhattan DA arrested 37-year-old John Woeltz in his Soho apartment there in New York. It's an Alita, I don't know if it was pronounced Alita or Alito. It's a townhome, guys. This guy was renting it for $30,000 to $40,000 a month. This guy is known as the Crypto King of Kentucky. He actually reached out and lured a 28-year-old Italian investor who apparently has a shitload of money tied up into Bitcoin. And he actually abducted and kidnapped this guy, took him to this $30,000 a month rental with another man that's still on the loose, by the way, took this guy up to the balcony, hung him over the ledge, threatening to take his life, all in an attempt to get this guy's crypto Bitcoin password. Is that crazy shit or what? It's like straight out of the movie. One of the guys on this video described this guy as a very clean, really super rich looking dude. Normally you don't describe people like that unless they have a certain look. And I thought it was hilarious that they end up arresting this guy in a bathrobe. But real quick, let's talk about this 28-year-old Italian character. They held him over the balcony, threatening his life. But that's not all. Check this out. They used a saw to cut his leg. They forced him to smoke crack. Oh my God. How crazy is that? I wonder if this guy's addicted to crack now, because this abduction happened on May the 6th. And he just escaped this past Friday. He actually ran from the hotel room, or excuse me, the condo. Guys, he actually ran from the condo down to a traffic control officer barefoot. So imagine this, you see this super rich guy that they're arresting in this really nice looking white bathrobe, right? And then this Italian guy runs out barefooted. I couldn't help but get glimpses and memories of the Jeffrey Dahmer situation. Remember where the little Vietnamese guy runs looking for help? He runs into two police officers and they end up taking him back to Jeffrey Dahmer. And Jeffrey Dahmer goes, oh, it's just a homosexual squabble we're having. And they end up giving the poor victim back to Jeffrey Dahmer. That's what this reminded me of, because you see a guy running out barefoot and another guy in a bathrobe. It's just like, holy moly, what are you guys doing there? So check this out. In addition to making him smoke crack and sawing his leg, he urinated on him. He put an air tag around his neck. He used an electrical wires to shock him, threatened to take away his family. So all those other things could have been sexual. The threatening to take away his family, that could be dirty talk for all I know. Pistol whipped him. And then the police, when they go into this ritzy apartment, they find multiple pictures where apparently there was a gun up to this Italian guy's head. Again, all this in an attempt to get his Bitcoin password. What was hilarious is there's two guys. One guy, by the way, unnamed, is still on the run. They're, I assume, trying to figure out his identity and find out where he is. But apparently, in order to fool these two geniuses, the Italian guy goes, okay, I'll give you my password. Go get your laptops. And apparently, they both go in to get their laptops while this guy runs out the front door and out down to the traffic control officer. It was a hilarious video, and I urge you guys to go check it out. This Asian lady kept saying, it was like straight out of a movie. I mean, she really did make the video. What's really crazy about this is that I've heard stories about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies for a while, that sometimes you get some unsavory characters that are dealing with this money that supposedly is untraceable, right? So if he would have been able to get away with that, I don't know if the Italian guy would have ever been able to prove his case. I don't even know how this is going to work, but I just thought it was super interesting, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to talk about that when we get on our walk. So now 37-year-old John Woeltz has been arrested and apprehended. And apparently the charges against him are kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, and assault charges are also against this young man as well. What's crazy though is, what if this was some sort of sexual encounter gone wrong? What are the odds you could keep somebody held up in an apartment for that long without the neighbors finding out? Seems kind of interesting. And also, if you're going to keep a guy hostage, do you do it in an apartment or condo that costs $30,000 to $40,000 a month? Oh my goodness. And a lot of times you find out these people are worth tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Why would you risk all of your freedom and all of your bright future to potentially go live the rest of your life in a jail cell out of greed? Gosh, greed takes down so many people, and it's just unbelievable. What really blows me away is occasionally you'll hear these stories of really elderly men that are greedy, and it just doesn't make sense to me, because it's like, you're probably going to be leaving the earth in a couple of years. Why the heck are you so greedy? Now, in this guy's case, he's 37. This might have been that big, huge score that he was thinking about, that he was trying to take down. No different than in the movies. And that's what's so crazy. I have a feeling this is going to end up turning into a movie. The question is it good enough to go big screen, or is it going to be like a Hulu original or a Netflix movie? We'll see. Hey, correct me if I'm wrong, Mala, but wasn't there a couple years back where some guy was offering like $1 million if somebody could help him remember his password? Because supposedly they give you 2 or 3 guesses, and if you're wrong on the third time, they lock you out of your account. And apparently this guy had like $3 or $4 million in this Bitcoin or crypto account. Am I having a false memory, or do you guys remember that? I just remember a couple years back, somebody was trying his darndest to remember his password, and for whatever reason, he couldn't remember his password. I remember I kept thinking, go to a hypnosis guy, go to a hypnotist. Maybe he or she can get you back to that area through, while they take you under through hypnosis. And maybe you can find a way. Holy moly, how much would you be willing to pay to try to get your money back? Here's the crazy thing. What if he didn't have much more funds than what was in that account, and he couldn't even afford to pay a hypnotist, Some hypnotist is like, yeah, give me $35,000 and I'll help you get there. You can't pay 35 grand. You're like, hey, I'll pay $300. Can you hypnotize me or what?
4-inch heels, straight on the sidewalk. All I need is hearing your sweet talk. Yeah, feel so free. My mind wanna jaywalk. Yeah, take a sip of that crazy look in your eyes.
So I don't think this Italian guy, I don't think he had like a couple $1,000. He probably had millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, right? And he came to New York, presumably because he was promised some cryptocurrency that apparently John Woeltz owed him. So he's going there in the name of adding more money to his coffers, so to speak, and he ends up being kidnapped. John Woeltz obviously is on the other side of this kidnapping, along with this third person that, hasn't been named or identified yet. But it's interesting because it just seems like men and women, obviously, are able to do almost anything and everything for the love of money. And it's too bad, because as I get older, I start to realize that yes, money does make life easier in some aspects, but man, it can sure bring you a lot of problems. When you're rich, you have to look over your shoulder. You have to make sure that people aren't enemies, because you have very few friends, right? Even when you're an average Joe, it's not like you're guaranteed to have 30 or 40 friends. You're lucky if you can count your friends on one hand, right? Well, imagine being rich like Bill Gates rich, right? Or Warren Buffett rich. You literally have to assume that everybody that's around you could turn on you. And to me, that just seems scary. It's almost like there's built-in negatives to being rich. We, as average or even poor people, we look at the rich people and we think, oh my God, must be nice. I don't think that everything about their lifestyle is nice. And if you take that up a level and you go up to the billionaires, they probably have it even worse. Every time someone knows they're in the neighborhood, there's probably a couple people that are contemplating trying to kidnap these people. Could you imagine kidnapping Bill Gates? Holy moly. He never holds any cash on his person. He only has that cheap watch. You kidnap him and you slowly realize he's not even a human being. He's an android. Oh my God. How disappointing would that be? Hey, I got Bill Gates here. Yeah, did you find out he's not even human? He's an android. Ha, ha, ha. And then he explodes. At Baker Street Crypto says people and illegal at Baker Street says crypto people and illegal drug people have a lot in common. Yeah, so a couple years back, I'm watching this 60-minute show, and it's showing this guy, and he's like literally living in like the jungles of South America. And he's up in like a tree house talking to like the CBS guy. And he's like, yeah, I'm worth like $6 million in cryptocurrency. And they were talking about the pros and the cons. And he was like, I really just love how it's kind of detached from the dollar. And, he was just talking about a lot of exciting things, but I didn't really know about it too much, so I couldn't make much of it. But later on in the conversation with the CBS guy, he ends up admitting that, he's had many people make threats against his life. Because if they can get a hold of his crypto account and his cryptocurrency or his crypto money, so to speak, there was no way to trace it. So it's like, it was really scary. Now, I don't know if things have changed since then. I don't know if it's much safer now. But I just know, my goodness, it seems like bad guys really love doing whatever it takes to get their hands on it. Patricia Strange says, $40,000 a month? Who the F pays that? Patricia, that's what blows me away. These rich people, we look at them and we say, my God, they live like kings. The truth is, a $50 meal for you and me, they pay $500 or $600 for it. A cheap bottle of wine that you get down at the mall for $35 or $40, they buy a $500 bottle. An apartment that you think is ritzy because it costs $2,500 or $3,500 a month, they spend $30 or $40K a month. It's almost like everything they do has to be top of the line, the most expensive. And when average people like you and me look at that, we just shake our heads and think, that's some crazy shit. God, I could totally be happy with you give me 30 or 40 grand, I could rent out a place for the whole year that's really, really nice. They're spending that per month. And I'm sure there's a couple rich people that are watching various YouTube videos. There might even be one watching this thinking, that's nothing. I could tell you stories about places that cost even more. Apparently that's what a lot of people love in this life is, how many toys can they accumulate? Back in the 80s and 90s, there were bumper stickers that used to be real popular. And they said, he who dies with the most toys wins. And then there was a counter bumper sticker, if you guys remember. It said, he who dies with the most toys still dies. And I think that bumper sticker makes the more sense because there's going to be a lot of millionaires and billionaires that end up taking their last breath in this world. And they're going to end up having a lot of the money that they earn through their lives. They're never going to live long enough to spend it, right? They're going to take their last breath just like Munger did, right? Warren Buffett's partner. He took his last breath, a year or so ago? And I'd be willing to bet he probably left his family, whatever family members he had left, he probably left them enough money where he probably didn't even have to work the last 30 or 40 years So remember, these ultra rich people, there's no need to envy them. They have a whole set of problems all unto themselves. And I'd be willing to bet there's a couple rich people that actually will agree with me and say, you know what, Jesse, you're kind of right. I make more money than I ever thought possible. And sometimes I wonder if it's even all worth it because it's a pain in the ass. You get more money, you just get more problems. That's why they say if you take a bunch of money to a junkie, a drug addict, you're probably going to kill them because all they're going to do is use that money to get more and more drugs, and it's going to end up being more of a problem. I think that's another advantage to walking. Walking gets you to the point where you start to appreciate some things that don't cost money. You start to realize that there's more to life than money. Sometimes you need something that you can turn to so you don't worry about money so much. Money really is the root of all evil, But here's the thing. Everybody needs it. So remember, when you have money, it doesn't mean you're evil. Just try to do good with it. Pay your bills. Stay on top of things. Help out people in a charitable way, not in a way where, it makes people miserable. Nikki Smith says the victim arranged to meet with this monster about a possible deal. When he arrived, he was jumped, tied up, and tortured to extract the money. Nikki, I know, I saw the video. That's ultimately what happened. She summarized that video perfectly. There were two guys getting together because they both wanted some money. One wanted money that he thought he was going to be receiving. The other wanted money and he was willing to kill to get it. That's scary stuff right there, guys. T-Storm 3706 says, such a sick, greedy country. Anyone who chooses to go there does a much greater peril than almost anywhere in the world. So this person is a non-American talking about our country. And guys, frankly, that's embarrassing. But that's how other people from other countries look at the U.S. They look at us and they think it's a greedy, scary place to go. And when you go to America, it's just as dangerous than any other crazy place in the world. So in other words, in other people's eyes, they equate America nowadays, it's no different than a third world country. And that's kind of embarrassing. I think we as Americans need to aspire to do better. And the thing that's so crappy is from our youngest people to our oldest people, we're all just a bunch of greedy SOBs that whenever we can choose the wrong choice in life, you go down that path and you have the right choice or the wrong choice. God, as Americans, we choose the wrong choice darn near every time. That's why I still think it's odd that Pope Leo's an American. I don't know how the heck he got that vote in. I have a funny feeling in 20 or 30 years, we're going to find out Pope Leo is the CIA guy. I really do. At Autumn Fragrance 6326 says, this was 100% consensual. It's very common in this neighborhood. I'm hoping to goodness that we find out that this was just a love spat gone wrong. And I think that's hilarious if we do find that out. I don't think it's that. I think it's literally this guy got kidnapped. But if I were on the defense, based on everything that happened to this guy, I think I would try to spin it like it was a homosexual encounter with a misunderstanding. Is that crazy or what? Based on all the evidence I've heard, this guy's best chance to get out of this is to pretend like it was a love squabble. A love squabble. Anger because the guy didn't want to have, who knows, crazy world. Anyway, speaking of crazy world, make sure you take your walk today. Make sure you take a walk every day. Come back again tomorrow and take another walk with me. Have a good night.